There is a common misconception that Teddy Ruxpin was created as an educational toy. While each of the original Adventure series stories had a clear value to teach the reader, those values were largely philosophical rather than intellectual. The airship teaches the reader the value of having a dream to follow. It doesn't pledge to teach the reader a new word or to solve a math problem. Obviously, some people behind the scenes recognize Teddy's potential as an edutainment product, and it's even rumored that All About Bears was created as a proof of concept to that end. Later adventures in the series took a decidedly more informative tone, with focuses on home, fire, and water safety. Yet despite these efforts, the Teddy Ruxpin Answer Box remains the only product created for the original Teddy Ruxpin with a clear focus on learning. Released in 1988, it was one of the final accessories released for the first and second generation Teddy, meaning its adoption and appeal was limited, since Worlds of Wonder would later revise Teddy's design completely, even as it filed for bankruptcy. As such, this accessory is only compatible with the original 18-inch Teddy Ruxpin talking toy, so don't try using this with 3rd generation WoW Teddy, 1990s Playskool Teddy, 1998 Yes Teddy, 2006 Backpack Toys Teddy, or Wicked Cool Toys 2017 Teddy. It may not be as rare as many of Teddy's other accessories, but the Answer Box is arguably one of Worlds of Wonder Teddy's lesser-known add-ons, and one of only 3 devices to take advantage of the connector port on Teddy's back, the other 2 being Grubby and the picture show projector. In the plainest sense, the Teddy Ruxpin Answer Box is a very simple computer. It's also the only device that allows Teddy to accept direct input from the listener. Like the other stories Teddy tells, the Answer Box stories are stored on a special animation cassette, which operates identically to their non-Answer Box variants. The books, however, deviate significantly from their standard counterparts. Each book is spiral bound rather than hardcover, with the spine of the book at the top so listeners can turn pages easily as the story progresses. The center of the book is hollowed out to frame the center buttons on the Answer Box. Unlike the more traditional storybooks, there is no narrative text on these pages. Instead, each page is split into 4 quadrants, with each quadrant featuring an illustration to demonstrate what Teddy is talking about. We'll explore this more in a minute. The books themselves are decidedly less durable than the usual Teddy Ruxpin storybooks. Seeing as they are bound only by spiraled plastic and made solely out of their paper pages, it's far too easy to accidentally tear the pages from their binding, and there's really no way to undo that damage, since taping the pages back in would leave them too difficult to turn and thus unusable. As someone who grew up with an Answer Box and still has a few of the books from 30 years ago, I can attest that most of them are missing their covers and pages. The other distinguishing feature of these books is that they are dual-sided. This means that Teddy will prompt the listener to flip the book over about halfway through the story so that they can continue using the illustrations on the reverse sides of the pages from side 1. The Answer Box itself is, well, a box. The face of the box features an illustration of Teddy reading a book and Leota the wood sprite, who appears to be instructing him. This is a nice touch because it maintains the verisimilitude of the world of Teddy Ruxpin. The center of the box features 4 raised buttons in 4 different colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. Each button is a complete square, or at least it would be, were it not for the tiny piece that looks chewed out of the corner of each button. In its place is a tiny light. These lights will glow when users press their corresponding buttons. The rest of the box is virtually featureless, with a beige aesthetic reminiscent of computers and other technology at the time. At the top of the Answer Box is a small groove where the spine of the book will sit so that the pages aren't raised from the surface of the Answer Box while in use. On the underside of the Answer Box is a spring-loaded battery door. Opening it reveals a battery bay to accommodate a 9-volt cell. Finally, on the back of the Answer Box is a single cord that should look familiar to anyone who's ever owned a talking Grubby or picture show projector. At first glance, it may appear as a simple 3.5mm audio connector, but it is, in fact, a bit longer than that, featuring an extra ring. Just like those accessories, this plugs into the Teddy connector port on Teddy Ruxpin's back. A brief care and instructions pamphlet accompanies the answer box explaining how to set it up and what to do if the answer box or Teddy is not responding correctly. Full disclosure, this answer box was purchased on eBay specifically for this video and was unsealed. As such, I don't know if any other paperwork was included with the answer box when it was released. Let us know down in the comments if you've ever unboxed one of these from a sealed package. 6 stories were released for the answer box, which may not seem like a lot when you consider Teddy had about 40 regular adventure series stories, but it's enough to show that there was faith in the product. As I mentioned, Counting is Fun was the pack-in title for the answer box. The other stories were Let's Learn About Opposites, Just About the Size of It, Up, Down, and All Around, Color My World, and Easy as ABC. A final story is listed on the back of the answer box packaging, Shapes Are Everywhere, but ironically, I was not able to find a copy of it anywhere. The stories are less narrative than Teddy's traditional adventures. They all follow a basic formula. Teddy will introduce a concept, such as counting, the alphabet, or the difference between large and small. You'll spend most of the story finding examples of these concepts and pressing the buttons that best represent them. Teddy will usually review the concept at the end and finish with an original song, such as Counting is Fun or So Many Sizes Things Can Be. If you're looking for something as narratively compelling as The Missing Princess, you may be disappointed. These stories play out much more like an episode of Blue's Clues or Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. They are self-contained and are there solely to teach a concept. You won't be seeing anything you haven't seen before. Instead, the answer box stories do an admirable job of taking the people and places we're already familiar with and using them to teach us something new. Getting the answer box working is a fairly straightforward affair. First, make sure Teddy himself has fresh batteries in him and test him with an existing tape. Once that's done, grab a 9-volt battery, the square battery with the 2 connectors on top, and open up the battery compartment on the answer box. There are 2 nodes on the battery and 2 on the connector in the battery compartment. They're different sizes, one big, one small, so make sure to hook them up properly. The big node on the battery connector needs to snap over the small node on the battery, and the small node on the connector needs to snap into the big node on the battery. This can take a little bit of force, but use caution. After all, this connector is over 30 years old. Finally, connect the answer box cord to the Teddy Ruxpin connector port on Teddy's back. The instructions that come with the answer box, as well as the tag attached to the cord, explicitly remind you to push the cord all the way in for this to work properly. The red light on the bottom front of the answer box should light up once everything is in place and Teddy is turned on, indicating that the answer box is receiving power and a proper signal. If it doesn't light up, you may need to search out fresh batteries for either Teddy or the answer box. Once everything is ready, place your answer box book on the face of the answer box so that the multicolored buttons sit in the center with the spine at the top. Make sure you're looking at side 1 of the book. The space at the bottom where the page number normally appears should read Start. Then, go ahead and insert your answer box cassette into Teddy and let the learning begin. Unlike the traditional adventure series stories, there is no "Come Dream With Me Tonight" to greet us when the answer box stories begin. Instead, you'll get a song called Push the Button.
This is Teddy, and we got lots to learn already. Why don't you push that button? Red or yellow, green or blue?
Teddy will briefly explain how things work and then introduce us to the story. In this case, we have the story that came with the answer box, Counting is Fun. As I said, the answer box is a very simple computer, allowing the user to interact with Teddy Ruxpin in a binary way. Teddy will present a scenario or a concept, in this case, a number, which will usually be depicted in one of the 4 illustrations on the page. Teddy will prompt the user to press the button next to the picture that most represents this concept. You'll then hear an instrumental version of the Answer Box song as the listener chooses a button next to one of the pictures. Pressing one of the 4 buttons causes the light next to them to glow, showing that it has been pressed. A corresponding jingle will emit from the answer box to tell you if you got the answer right or wrong. What's more, the user's choice will dictate what they hear next. A correct choice elicits a positive response,
Yep, that's it.
while an incorrect answer elicits a negative response.
Nope, over there.
But how is that possible? This is a cassette tape after all. Modern technology like a hard drive can access data anywhere on the disk as needed, but a cassette tape can only play in one direction at any time, and it must be played in order. So how do we play only one response to our answer? To explain what's happening, you can try playing an Answer Box cassette in a standard cassette player and isolate the left channel of audio, where Teddy's voice comes out. If we were to play the tape with no answer box to tell us where to jump to, we would hear both a negative and positive response to each scenario.
Uh-oh, that's not it. That's it.
Using the answer box, we only hear the response that corresponds to our selection. It is either positive or negative, but we never hear both.
That's it.
At first, I thought the answer box would fast forward the tape to the correct response depending on my answer. For example, playing the cassette in a non-Teddy player shows that the negative response always precedes the positive response.
Nope, you missed them. Yep, there they go.
So if I pressed the incorrect button, the cassette would play the negative response and then fast forward over the positive response to continue the story. But upon closer inspection, it seems that the tape's speed doesn't change during playback, regardless of what buttons I pressed. Instead, what appears to be happening is that Teddy's responses are muted according to your answer. For example, pressing the correct button would cause Teddy to mute the negative response and only play the positive response.
That's right.
Pressing the incorrect button would play the negative response and then mute the positive response.
That's not Teddy.
Even more impressive is the fact that if you don't press any button when Teddy asks you to, Teddy will mute both the positive and negative responses and simply show you the correct answer.
The yellow button is next to the 5 party hats.
This may seem very primitive in an age where we have exponentially more powerful computers in our pockets, but for a device as small, simple, and relatively inexpensive as the answer box, it's rather ingenious. As we mentioned, about halfway through the story, you'll notice you're almost out of pages. Not to worry. Teddy will invite you to flip over your book so that you can follow along on the other side.
Whoops! It's time to turn the book over.
The picture on this page will help you. Look for the words Start Part 2 on the back. Then we'll be ready to go again.
It's like getting 2 books in one. When Teddy Ruxpin was released in 1985, he astounded people with his blinking eyes and moving mouth. It was like a teddy bear had come to life. The Grubby talking toy proved that there was more potential in the technology, as one cassette could send instructions to both Teddy and Grubby. The answer box was a natural progression of that technology, using audio signals to get input from the user and move the story along accordingly. Not only is it the most interactive of Teddy's accessories, but it allowed children to learn in an innovative new way with a friend they already know and love. The answer box may be one of the lesser known Teddy Ruxpin accessories, but it is arguably one of the more fascinating for its ability to take the relative limitations of the available technology and create a unique learning experience that continued to build on the world of Teddy Ruxpin. In this way, the Answer Box feels more like a game you're playing with your friend, rather than a lesson you're being asked to learn. Did you have an Answer Box growing up, or did you find one on your own? Let us know down in the comments. To keep up with everything going on at Grundle Gazette, you can visit us at grundlegazette.com, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Grundle Gazette, join our Facebook group at the link in the video description, or join our fan forums at grundlegazette.com/forum. Fans like you are what keeps Teddy Ruxpin alive, so come dream with us.